Welcome to Byte-Sized Tech, where we blend casual conversations with insightful discussions on the latest in technology and gadgets.
Sounds fun.
It is, especially today. We're going to be diving into a world where things aren't quite what they seem.
Oh,
Yeah, from AI-generated videos tricking YouTubers to a new law in France that's got everyone talking about privacy and encryption.
oh wow, that's quite the mix.
It is. It
Yeah.
really is. It's a fascinating and slightly unnerving intersection of trends we're seeing in the tech world.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so let's start with this YouTube scam because,
Mm.
honestly, this one's pretty wild.
Okay, yeah.
We're talking sophisticated phishing attacks targeting creators.
Uh-huh.
And they're using something called deepfakes to make it
Yeah.
even more convincing.
Oh yeah, you got it. And these deep fakes are getting incredibly realistic. We're talking AI-generated videos that can mimic someone's voice and appearance almost perfectly.
It's crazy.
In this case, scammers created a video of YouTube CEO Neil Mohan announcing fake changes to monetization policies.
So you can imagine YouTubers see their CEO talking about like a hot button issue, like monetization, and they click the link in the email without thinking twice.
Oh no.
And bam, they just handed over their login info to the scammers. It's scary how believable this stuff is becoming.
Absolutely. It really highlights the fact that we can't always trust what we see online anymore.
Right.
And the scary part is this is just the tip of the iceberg. As AI technology advances, these scams are only going to become more sophisticated and harder to detect.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, what can creators or anyone really do to protect themselves?
Yeah.
I mean, YouTube did issue warnings about this specific scam, telling people to be wary of private videos and suspicious links.
Right.
But is that enough?
Well, it's a start, but it's definitely not a foolproof solution.
Yeah.
It's like playing a constant game of cat and mouse. As security measures improve, so do the tactics of scammers.
Right.
The key is to always be skeptical. Don't click on links or download attachments from unknown sources, even if they appear to be from someone you trust.
And always double-check the sender's email address carefully.
Good advice. It's a good reminder to be extra cautious, especially in the online world where things can be so easily manipulated.
For sure.
And this actually brings us to our next topic, encryption and privacy. Because on one hand, we have AI making it harder to trust what we see online, but on the other hand, we have governments potentially weakening the very technology that's meant to protect our online communications.
Exactly.
It's a complex dilemma, and it's playing out in a big way right now in France with this new amendment to their narco-traffic law.
Yeah.
So for our listeners who might not be familiar with this, can you break down what's happening in France and why it's causing such a stir?
Sure. Essentially, the French government wants tech companies to create backdoors in their encryption systems, which would allow law enforcement to access the encrypted messages of suspects within 72 hours of a request. Okay, so imagine encryption, like a super secure lockbox for your messages. It keeps them private and safe from prying eyes. But this law is basically saying, hey, tech companies, you need to create a secret way for us to open those lockboxes when we need to.
You got it. And the argument from the French government is that this is necessary to combat crime and terrorism. They say that criminals are increasingly using encrypted messaging apps to communicate, and that law enforcement needs access to those communications to do their jobs effectively.
But of course, there's a huge backlash against this.
Yeah.
Because, well, creating those backdoors weakens the security for everyone, not just the suspects they're after.
Right. It's like leaving a master key under the doormat. If you make it easier for the good guys to get in, you're also making it easier for the bad guys.
Makes sense.
Privacy advocates and tech companies are arguing that these backdoors could be exploited by hackers and other malicious actors,
Oh, wow.
potentially leading to massive data breaches and eroding trust in online communication.
And if people are already struggling to trust what they see online because of things like AI-powered scams, how will knowing that their encrypted messages could be accessed affect their behavior?
That's a great question, and one that lawmakers are grappling with. Because if people don't trust the security of their online communications, they might be less likely to use these platforms for sensitive conversations or transactions, and that could have a chilling effect on freedom of expression and innovation.
And the stakes are high for companies too, right? There's some pretty hefty consequences for those that don't comply with this new law.
Absolutely. We're talking about potentially millions of euros in fines. So tech companies are in a difficult position trying to balance their legal obligations with the need to protect their users' privacy and security.
It's a tricky situation for sure. And to make things even more interesting, this isn't just a French issue. We're seeing similar pushes for weaker encryption in other countries, like the UK. but they're going about it in very different ways.
You're right. The UK has been taking a more behind closed doors approach, trying to pressure tech companies into complying with their demands for encryption backdoors without making it a public debate.
Interesting.
But that strategy has also been met with resistance. Apple, for instance, has reportedly filed a legal complaint against the UK government's demands for an iCloud encryption break. So it's a battle that's playing out on multiple fronts.
It really highlights the global nature of this debate. And it raises the question, where does this leave us, the everyday users? Could we see similar laws popping up in our own countries?
It's a possibility, and one that we should all be aware of, because ultimately, these decisions about how to balance security and privacy in the digital age will have a profound impact on our lives.
Yeah, it's almost like we're at a crossroads,
Yeah.
trying to figure out how to navigate this new digital landscape where technology is evolving faster than our ability to regulate it.
That's a great way to put it. And it's not just about regulations, it's also about personal responsibility. Because even as lawmakers grapple with these complex issues, there are things that we can do as individuals to protect ourselves in this digital world.
So what advice would you give to our listeners who are feeling a little overwhelmed by all of this? What are some practical steps they can take to stay safe online?
Well, first and foremost, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Be skeptical. Don't trust everything you see online, especially when it comes to emails, links, or messages that seem even slightly off.
Yeah, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Exactly. And double check the sender's information carefully. If you're unsure about the legitimacy of a message, contact the supposed source directly through their official website or phone number.
It's not just about being cautious with what you click on. It's also about keeping your software and devices up to date, right?
Absolutely. Those updates often include important security patches that can protect you from known vulnerabilities.
It's easy to dismiss those update notifications when you're busy, but it's really worth taking the time to do them. Think of it as boosting your digital immune system.
That's a great analogy. And speaking of strong defenses, let's not forget about the importance of strong, unique passwords for all of your online accounts.
It's one of those things we hear all the time, but it's easy to fall into bad habits.
I get it. Remembering a million different passwords can be a pain. But luckily, there are tools like password managers that can help. They generate and store complex passwords for you so you don't have to remember them all.
Yeah, it takes the mental gymnastics out of it. I use one, and it's a lifesaver.
Me too. And finally, remember that education is your best weapon in the fight against cybercrime.
Knowledge is power, as they say.
Exactly. The more you understand about the threats and how they work, the better equipped you'll be to avoid them. There are a lot of great resources available online that can help you stay informed about the latest scams and security best practices.
So stay informed, stay vigilant, and stay one step ahead of those cyber criminals.
Well said. It's really about empowering ourselves with knowledge and taking proactive steps to protect our digital lives.
You know, it's interesting how these two topics, we've been discussing AI-powered phishing scams and the debate over encryption backdoors, both come back to this fundamental question of trust.
That's a really insightful observation. On one hand, we have AI making it harder to trust what we see online, while on the other hand, we have governments potentially undermining the very technology that's designed to protect our privacy and build trust in the digital world.
It's a delicate balancing act, and it seems like we're still figuring out where the lines should be drawn.
Absolutely. It's an ongoing conversation that we all need to be a part of, because the future of the internet depends on finding the right balance between security, privacy, and innovation.
Yeah, it is a lot to think about. But, you know, despite all these challenges, I'm still optimistic about the future of technology.
Day two.
Yeah.
I think it's important to remember that technology itself isn't inherently good or bad. It's a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for positive or negative purposes.
Yeah, that's a great point. It all comes down to how we choose to use it, both as individuals and as a society.
Exactly. And that's why it's so crucial for us to be engaged in these conversations about the ethical implications of technology,
Yeah.
the potential risks, and the safeguards we need to put in place.
So what can our listeners do to make their voices heard in this debate? How can they get involved and help shape the future of the digital world?
Well, first and foremost, stay informed.
Okay.
Read articles, listen to podcasts like this one, and follow experts in the field to keep up with the latest developments.
Knowledge is power, right?
Absolutely. And once you're informed, don't be afraid to speak up.
Yeah.
Contact your elected representatives, share your thoughts on social media, and engage in discussions with your friends and family.
It's all about raising awareness and getting more people involved in these important conversations.
Exactly. And remember, the future of technology isn't predetermined. It's being shaped by the choices we make today, both individually and collectively.
So let's make those choices wisely.
Well said.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for tuning in to Bite-Sized Tech. If you enjoyed the episode, like, comment, share, and subscribe for more fun tech discussions.